What's really good, my people? Welcome in to No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. I am your host, Sean Little. Big Nick the Quick, Nick Harvey with me. As always, we got a lot to break down. What an up and down electric Monday night football game. Aaron Rodgers goes down on the fourth play. Jets end up getting the dub in overtime. Xavier Gibson takes the punt return to the house to win it. We're going to break that Monday night game down. What do the Jets do from here? Rodgers is going to be out for the year. Is Rodgers going to come back next year? Does he go out like this? My gut says no. What's the next move at quarterback? Zach Wilson, we've seen that movie. Or have we not seen that movie? We'll talk about that. Then, of course, NFL Week 1 officially in the books. What are some takeaways from that? Looking forward, what are we looking to for Week 2? And then LeBron picked up the phone. Dylan Brooks scored 39. LeBron said, look, man, we're going to show up to the Olympics. We're going to have to do what it do. We can't be there's too much slander out here on USA basketball. We'll talk about LeBron James, his comments, and how important is international hoops to Big Nick the Quick. We will find out. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. Let's go.
Now look at Mossy. Really? Oh, so that's how you're going to play it. You going to do this? Okay, fine. That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that. And it became personal with me.
Big Nick the Quick, what's happening?
How
I got
feeling?
I got the fresh cup today, man. I needed the fresh cup.
Fresh cappuccino on
I
deck.
needed the fresh cap on deck.
Absolutely, man. What a week one of NFL action.
There's a lot going on,
What a Monday night.
It was a lot going on, my brother.
What a day. Crazy. Everything changed. 4 plays.
How was everything changed, man? We can just jump right into it.
The whole situation changed. It's crazy, man. You know, you and I both watch a lot of Get Up, a good amount of First Take. We consume a lot of the media. And if you really look at it, I'd say a good 25 to 30% of all coverage was dedicated to Aaron Rodgers over the last 2 to 3 years, right? Is that fair to say? It leads every
100.
single show, especially then he made the move. So it's just all the anticipation. Obviously, with Get Up, you got a big Jets fan in Greeny, so it's extra spotlight on that. And to have it, regardless of how you feel about Rodgers, regardless of how you feel about the Jets, the coverage, whatever it might be, it was absolutely crazy to see it end in 4 plays like that, on that type of injury, in that type of situation, in that type of game, with that type of spotlight. It's almost surreal that it kind of went down like that, just after all the anticipation. So, yeah, man, it's crazy. Crazy. It's a brutal sport.
Well, I'm trying to think of what's the most anticipated sports situation like that. I don't even know.
Yeah,
So for example, if Victor Wembanyama is different because he's a rookie, right? So we don't.
Yeah, it's like the Zion shit and different stuff like that. But
that is more of we think this guy is going to be really good. I think the hype I think it's LeBron's decision.
I would have said it would be the equivalent of LeBron's decision, and then if game 1, he literally tore his ACL and was out for the year. But even with that, LeBron was 25 when he made that choice. It's not like there's so many questions at the back end of this too. We're still trying to figure out the diagnosis. They haven't made it yet, but I think you called it right away. And everybody everybody that knows what it is called it right away. I was listening to Damian Woody this morning, and he tore his Achilles in his last year in the league, and he was like, "Yeah, I knew right away." So when you start hearing from guys that it's happened to, doctors, different things like that, it's all, you're just waiting for confirmation. But the amount of questions that it brings up and just all that is crazy. Because even if LeBron had went down, he still would have had D-Wade, Chris Bosh, and again, he would have been back next year, in the prime of his career. This Rodgers situation is different. He's 38. You know what I mean? He only has so much more left. And now to have this type of injury that's going to require this type of recovery in week 1, you know what I mean? It's not like the Jets are 7-1 and he goes down. It's like, hey,
he didn't complete a pass, dog.
Yeah, he did not. Yeah,
he didn't complete a pass.
Not a single one.
And it was and he was out for the year before that. Just to go to the injury, I think this goes, especially if you're a bettor like me, and just the overall, just trying to pick up on as many details as possible when you're watching sports. And that's just how I make my best educated guesses and inferences. So if you saw And let me be clear, I'm not a Twitter doctor, and I'm not any of that. But it's just about having a high, I guess, being locked in and having that that IQ, that awareness to what's going on. If you are a big sports fan, you saw Kevin Durant go down, you saw Kobe go down with the same injury. It looked very similar. His leg got stretched out, and he tried to hop up like it was all good, and then immediately sat down on the turf like, fuck, something's wrong.
Yep.
And then you could see his foot. He was trying to move his foot, but his foot stayed flat.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's a simple inference when you're just really locked in. And those are the type of things that I say for sports betting in general is, I'm not saying diagnose injuries, but I'm saying just pay attention to small things that you can get a lot of information from said things, and you can make some money on those spots. Overall, let's talk about the game. Zach Wilson then comes in, doesn't play very well, but makes a couple throws throughout. That defense is the real deal. Now, let me ask you this, Nick. Is it more the Jets' defense being just spectacular, or when we're talking about Josh Allen and turning the ball over 4 times, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble, that is more his play versus the Jets making those happen?
Both things could be true. We're talking about an elite quarterback in the NFL, so he doesn't get that pass of playing against an elite defense, and that's why he played bad. You had a position to win that game. The Jets only scored 22 points, 6 of which came on a punt return at the end of the game in overtime. So really, they put up 16 points in regulation. You're supposed to be a high-powered offense, MVP candidate. You got weapons all over the place. You're supposed to be a team that's competing for a Super Bowl, and you, as the quarterback, turned the ball over 4 times, which absolutely took you out of that ball game, right? They should have put the hammer on them, right? Maybe not necessarily blown them out because this Jets defense is good, but you should have scored more than 1 touchdown. So yeah, no, he's not coming off the hook on this at all, man. If you're elite, you put up more than 1 touchdown in that situation, especially when you're not worried about the offense on the other side. We talk about this all the time. You play offense a lot differently if you're not worried about the guy on the other side, right? You can play a little bit more aggressive. You can take a little bit more chances. He took that as, I'm just going to throw the ball up and throw up a bunch of prayers. And I get, you and I talked a little bit about the Gabriel Davis route and how that could have been a little bit sharper. But regardless, man, okay, maybe that one's not his fault, but 3 out of the 4 turnovers were, right? You can't fumble in that spot. You can't throw 3 picks to the same guy. Shout out. Did you hear that Whitehead story that his contract incentive this year was if he got 3 interceptions, he got a $250,000 bonus?
No, I didn't.
So he hit that in game 1.
That's
so
amazing. Yeah.
Extra sweet for that game. So yeah, I mean, you can't do that. It's on Josh Allen, man. Now the Jets, they obviously capitalize on that, and that's a tough defense, especially up front and even the boys in the back. But no, Josh Allen's supposed to be an elite quarterback. These are the same mistakes that we saw last year. He even said it. And you can't turn the ball over in that spot. Not a chance. You're going up against Zach Wilson. You got to win that game. And you get the ball back to start in overtime. And he didn't play well in overtime. I thought he missed Diggs on that 3rd down. So, yeah, I don't think he played well. I don't think he looked sharp at all. And I'm not putting that all on the Jets D. No way. Josh Allen deserves all the smoke.
No question. I think it's a very. I think it just goes to prove. How do I want to talk, because I think this is a big point when we're talking about markets. Josh Allen has been turning the ball over at an alarming rate for a lot of years. Has he also been winning playoff games? Yes, he has. And he has been losing legendary playoff games to Patrick Mahomes, potentially the best playoff game I've ever seen in that divisional round in Kansas City. Yeah. But it's still always different when you're playing for Dallas and you're America's team. If this was flipped, they would be talking about Josh Allen, or they would have been talking about Josh Allen just like they've been talking about Dak, but just the market's not there. Buffalo's Buffalo, but they don't have as many eyeballs. Similarly to what this Aaron Rodgers situation has produced, This was the biggest hype arrival of a quarterback that I've ever seen in my lifetime, including Tom Brady going to Tampa. A big part of that is because the market being New York and being the Jets and around that storyline of they've never had a real big time quarterback since Namath winning the Super Bowl. You could, I guess, if you want to call Testaverde a big time quarterback, you can. He was very good, but they reference guys like Chad Pennington. These guys are not top tier quarterbacks when you look at the Super Bowl era and the numbers some of these other guys have produced. So, and a trivia question for everybody out there listening. Take a guess at how many quarterbacks have won a Super Bowl. And Nick, remind me, I'll come back and drop that off for the people. But overall, the market plays a big part. Josh Allen has been turning over the ball for quite some time. Also, another narrative I want to address. Brian Daboll made Josh Allen who he was, who he is today. And that's true. But don't get it twisted that Josh Allen wasn't turning the ball over when Brian Daboll was running the offense and calling plays. Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator from Josh Allen's rookie year through 2 years ago in 2021. We could just go 2020, 2021. Josh was still turning the ball over at a crazy rate in 2020, 2021. If you go look at the numbers, why am I on?
I got them pulled up if you need it.
Yeah, go ahead and I don't know where it just happened.
Well, yeah, so 2020, 2021, 25 picks over those 2 years. So 15 in 2021. Then you go to last year, he had 14 interceptions in 16 games. So Dak had 15 in 12 games. So I think, Dak obviously missed all those games while Cooper Rush was starting. So Dak threw a lot more picks if you take it out through the games. But either way, yeah, I think Josh Allen was second in the league in interceptions. And you look at it like games like last night, and some of the spots that he was throwing interceptions in were huge. Also, when you talk about the narrative, we heard about Dak's interceptions at every single turn. I texted you before the game the other night on Sunday night. Dak's coming out the tunnel. And they're like, Dak, you led the league in interceptions last year. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, this is a new season. He's trying to get right. You can tell the look on his face, like, I'm sick of answering these questions. Whereas with Josh Allen, the narrative has been all offseason. Can they figure out a way to have him run less? And we talked about it also last night, some of that running shit that he's doing. You can't do that. You cannot put yourself in those positions to take those hits. You can't run into three guys in traffic and jump up. You are a franchise quarterback in the NFL on a contender, allegedly. You cannot do that. So some of that shit's on him, man. Like, again, you're 100% right, man. He's getting passes that other guys might not be getting. And maybe it's because he plays for the Dallas Cowboys. And maybe it's because he plays for an organization that doesn't seem to ever fully want to support him. Whereas in Buffalo, it's very clear that they support Josh Allen. Yeah, I think that matters too. If Jerry was coming out there every week, because he's going to be coming out somewhere every week and talking about something, whether it's in the booth on the Sunday night game, whether it's his impromptu press conferences where he happens to have 20 reporters and 16 cameras following him around at all times, and he's ready to go. If he would get up there and say, Dak's our guy, I believe in Dak 1,000%. I want him to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys for the next 10 years. I don't care about the picks. This guy wins us ball games. We wouldn't be hearing about any of that. But he's consistently doing things to undermine Dak, right? And I think Jerry, almost to a point, I feel like every once in a while he has to come out to remind you who's in charge, right? Whether that's how he even handled the Lance thing. They asked him about it the other day, and he's pretty much said, I don't have to tell Mike shit. It's like there's other ways to answer that question that are more like diplomatic, but he doesn't care. He's like, what do you mean? I gotta tell Mike. He goes, the beauty in what he's the direct quote. He goes, the beauty in what we do is I don't have to tell the coach and I don't have to tell the owner. And it's like, yeah, you don't have to tell the owner because you are the owner. So it's very much like shit like that. So yeah, he's constantly being undermined, whereas Josh Allen gets his support. So obviously, like, if they're not out there defending Dak like that, it's open season on them. But yeah, Josh Allen deserves whatever he's going to get today and more, because that was awful. And I told you last night, that was one of the worst quarterback performances I've ever seen.
It was horrendous.
Horrendous.
Just throwing balls up for grabs. It was very much
no rhythm.
Not a performance from a guy from that's been a veteran, that's been a Pro Bowler, that's been an All-Pro in touchdown. The NFL. Now we can go back to I want a couple things. I want to go back to the rushing, then I want to go back to what you said about the Dak piece and having the full support and Jerry Jones and what he does. But you mentioned the rushing. Now listen, we're going to be talking about this a lot with Justin Fields being our guy as well. These rushing attempts where you are deliberately taking hits and lowering your shoulder like you're Earl Campbell is not going to work long term. And I've been saying this for a couple of years now on Josh Allen. He needs to call up Matt Forte. He needs to call up Tyler Lockett.
Sean Alexander.
Sean Alexander didn't really finish runs like that either.
Did not take hits, bro. That guy was allergic to contact. He go out of bounds all the time.
But there's times fourth down, third and long where you're trying to pick up an extra yard to get a first down. Josh Allen is picking up first downs and not going out of bounds and trying to pick up 2 more yards and lowering his shoulder on people. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. We talked about Sean McDermott needs to sit him down and talk to him about it. There has to be a point where they've already sat down and had a conversation about it, and Josh just isn't trying to hear it. And also, listen to some of these fumble numbers. Forget all forget the interceptions. Forget having double-digit interceptions in every year you've been in the league except 2019 where you had 9. You've gone 12, 9, 10, 15, 14 the last 2 years. We'll just focus on the last 2 years where he went 15 and 14 interceptions. He also went 13 and 8 in fumbles.
I just saw that. That's crazy. 13 fumbles last year.
I mean, the thing about fumbles is you don't always lose them all, right? But he's still putting it on the deck quite a bit. So, yeah, man, I mean,
Dak had 4 fumbles last year.
Yeah. So the guy turns the ball. The guy is reckless with the ball. He goes after it. And I know that's partly why people like him, but this shit needs to get cleaned up if they're going to try to win the AFC.
And that clearly fits the whole narrative, right? It's hero ball. The interceptions are hero ball. The running into traffic and trying to lower your shoulders, hero ball. It's reckless. And at this point in your career, like you're at an age where you got to rein that in, or else you got to start worrying about things like injury with them. I mean, the turnovers are one thing, but let's start talking about an injury, right? Look at Cam Newton. I mean, you play like that and your body will break down. I think a lot of these big guys, they've been bigger and faster and stronger than everybody their whole life, so they're kind of used to it. But in the league, it's different, man. So, I mean, I think he's been fortunate so far to have avoided injury. But some of that's like I called you after he jumped up into 3 guys yesterday, and it was like 3rd and 13, and he had gotten like 6. There was no reason to try to. You weren't going to get those extra 7 yards. There was no chance. You know what I mean? And he just jumped up, and I'm like, "What are you doing, man? Like, what are you thinking here? Especially during a game where you just saw another starting quarterback go down." Not playing hero ball, but again, you just saw like that's how real it is and how quick it can happen. So yeah, man. Again, I just overall add that to it. Just an awful game from Josh Allen in a spot where he easily could have picked up a win if we're being completely honest.
Also, let's talk about how important these primetime performances are. They shape narrative so much more than your game on Sunday at 1:12 noon. You can throw 3 interceptions in peace at 12 noon on Sunday. Absolutely. I'm not even joking.
Yeah,
it doesn't even get spoken about really.
Look at Burrow. No one's really talking about it. Burrow was awful.
Burrow was awful. Also, Burrow has the respect of everyone. That too. But even like Kirk Cousins and them losing at home at noon,
the Bucs
in the first game of the year against Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. Kind of flies under the radar, right? Sure. It's like it's a loss, but no one's really mentioning that. In that game, Justin Jefferson, I'm going to pull it up for you. In that game, Justin Jefferson went crazy. Justin Jefferson, I don't want to mess up the numbers because that's my guy. OPOY last year won me quite a bit of change. Went crazy. Had 9 catches for 150 yards. Rookie Jordan Addison scored a touchdown. Did you even know that?
No,
Have you heard about that at all?
nothing about that game. I don't know.
What I'm getting at is when you struggle at noon on a Sunday, it's just not as amplified. And these storylines pick up so much traction and these narratives get molded on prime time stuff. It's just really, you have to show your best hand on prime time coming into that game. Aaron Rodgers 9-0 on Monday Night Football. Like, those are the things that matter. So you can't come out and be reckless with the rock on Monday night when the entire nation is watching because everything is amped up. It's a bigger deal.
Well, you want to also talk about avoiding narratives of Josh Allen. I had no idea that going into that game and now coming out of that game, he's 0-5 in overtime games. That's a big stat. That's a big, big stat to me.
You think so?
Yeah, for sure. You never won an overtime game? Again, man, like we talk about the best quarterbacks are the guys who deliver in the moments. Overtime's a moment. I can't recall all the overtime games that he's been in, but I'm sure there were several opportunities to win the game like there was last night. Last night, they got the ball first. They should have scored and the game should have been over. That's that. That's it. And I said it on Twitter. I was like, hey, look, or X, whatever we're calling it nowadays, that if he loses to Zach Wilson in overtime, I can never look at him the same. And I get he didn't necessarily lose to Zach Wilson. He lost to Gibson. But either way, man, you had the ball first. Get down the field, score, and game's over.
Yeah, it's a tough performance for Josh Allen, and he's going to have to have it's going to take him 4 or 5 weeks of very good, not turnover football to rectify what happened in week 1. And
so you think the narrative will flip on him now? You think we'll start?
Oh
you
my
think
gosh,
going into next week? Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's already flipped.
Yeah.
This guy's been turning the ball over at an alarming rate for years, and no one really, like, people that are locked in, we brought it up. I talked about it all last year coming into the year.
Yep.
But, like, that wasn't it is a national narrative storyline that Dak Prescott is just he just turns it over. He just throws picks.
1 year turned the ball over. Prior to that, he was actually considered like elite at turnover rate. In one bad year, turning the ball over.
Now he just is
5 of them were like tipped passes, and now he's like Jameis Winston.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then meanwhile, this dude is literally fumbling the ball once a game and throwing a pick a game, and he's not like, it's all like a lot of love for Josh Allen, and I like Josh Allen.
Yeah.
When he's good, he's fucking phenomenal. But yeah, man, this is going to take a while. He's going to have to be completely cleaned up to flip the talk from the casual, because that's what it is. It's just a lot of casual talk. Sure. People that tuned in on Monday night that aren't going to be locked in when Buffalo plays Charlotte, the Panthers on a Sunday at 12 o'clock. You understand what I'm saying? So let me ask you what the Jets should do next.
Yeah. There's
rumblings, Matt Ryan. There's rumblings of people. I saw people bring up Colin Kaepernick. What planet do you live on?
He hasn't played football in 10 years.
Like these, like Jamel Hill brought up Colin Kaepernick. I get it, man. I'm for the people too. Like
they should got to
shit over with.
It's done. Yeah,
it's done, man. He's done. He's not coming back, man. He got the bread.
Did you hear what RG3 said this morning? He said that teams were contacting him in the offseason, but were pretty much like, "Hey, it's too much of a distraction to bring you in." Which I
too much of a distraction from what?
He was like, you know, certain guys you won't bring in as a backup because they're too much of a distraction. Kind of like, which makes sense, like Cam Newton, people like that.
Wait, RG3
said RG3 was RG3 said a GM told me this summer that, yeah, we see you, man. You look good. You look like you can play, but you'd be too much of a distraction. I was like,
no comment.
Off the cap, bro.
No comment, bro. No comment. Yep. There's I've heard rumblings. Let me tell you 2 guys that are not going to be the quarterback: Colin Kaepernick and Tom Brady. You can go ahead and freeze that. That shit is done.
What if Tom?
Matt Ryan's in the booth for CBS, and he stinks. So I don't see why
Sean's favorite quarterback.
I don't see why you would go get Matt Ryan. Now,
I'd take him over the next guy you're about to say.
Who's that?
Carson Wentz.
I
wouldn't allow him in the state of New York. He's not allowed to come to LaGuardia, JFK, the Hudson.
Carson Wentz.
He can't go to Buffalo. He can't go Albany, nowhere in the state of New York. He's not allowed. That guy sucks. He's he's like a fucking herpy to your team. You don't want him anywhere around.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with Carson Wentz.
Nothing.
Let him continue to go hunt.
I'd take 6 Matt Ryans over Carson Wentz.
Go do whatever.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew. First, let me give you the couple names that came to mind for me. Gardner Minshew came to mind really quickly, actually. Serviceable guy. We shout out Tyrod Taylor. I love Tyrod.
Listen,
he can't. He's not making a difference, though, man.
Tyrod's for the people.
Makes a
difference in the building. Makes a difference in the building.
Now, shout out Warren Sharp. He actually made a really interesting a plan per se. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, UCLA rookie on the Cleveland Browns, lit it up in the preseason. Looked very, very good. That could be an option. They'd have to trade capital for him, whatever. I don't know.
Lit up in the preseason playing against 3rd and 4th stringers. I don't even know who that is.
You've seen him.
Yeah, I don't know. I just pulled up his picture. Yeah, this guy's not starting quarterback for the New York Jets. Listen, I think you're missing one. Like Gardner Minshew sounds great, but Gardner Minshew is currently the backup of Anthony Richardson in the Indianapolis Colts. And if you're the Colts and you have a guy like Richardson starting for you who is raw, you're not just giving up on Gardner Minshew. Same thing with Winston. Same thing with a lot of these guys. Teams aren't lining up to hand you their backup quarterback for no reason. Those guys made the roster for a reason. So you're really
lining up if you give them a deal for him.
But here's the thing: you just gave up a lot to get Aaron Rodgers. How much more can you give up to try to salvage this season for guys who are going to be, if we're completely honest, marginally better than Zach Wilson? Right? Like Zach Wilson sucks. He's awful.
Wilson is bad.
How much better is Minshew than Wilson? How much better is name me another backup? You're not getting anybody's starter. Not a chance. So you're looking at Mariotas of the world. You're looking at Jameis Winston. You're looking at which bring Jameis to town. I'm good with that.
I'm gonna take Jameis. Shout out Jameis.
That'd be great. Follow him around too. Yeah, you're really not getting guys that are going to be and when you add in the fact that they won't know the playbook, how much better are they going to be than Zach Wilson, right? So bring in somebody. Absolutely, you need to bring in a capable backup at this point and someone who can learn that playbook behind Zach Wilson. And Wilson does struggle. Maybe you can bring them in to start in a few weeks. But at this point, no one's combined with the fact that they're either available, which means they're not that good, and the fact that they don't know the playbook is going to be that much better. So you're in a bad situation. Plus, you don't really have the capital to give up to go get another guy who's going to be impactful because you're also going to be desperate, right? If I'm the Colts and I get a call from the Jets, I'm like, oh, I'm fleecing these guys. You want Gardner Minshew? Yeah, let's talk, right? Give me some first rounders.
So you run out Zach Wilson, Nick?
Huh?
You run out Zach Wilson?
You got no choice but to run out Zach Wilson. If you were worried about this, if you were truly that worried about this, you should have handled this in the offseason as well. Broaden a capable backup for Aaron Rodgers. But your plan was to have Zach Wilson back him up and have him learn so he can be the starter again in 2 years. Well, guess what? They just hit fast forward on that. There's nobody available, man. There's a reason why Matt Ryan's in the booth. There's a reason why Carson Wentz is wherever the hell Carson Wentz is, right? I don't really know who else is available. Those are two guys that come to mind. I pulled it up earlier, but Joe Flacco's available too. Super Bowl winner Joe Flacco. He's always around.
Super Bowl champ.
Yeah. So these are your options.
Oh, and speaking of Super Bowl champs,
Joe Flacco was in the building 2 years ago. They've been through that. They've been through that ride before.
If you're still
last year, Joe Flacco was on the team.
Flacco was around last year.
Yeah, Robert Saleh's seen enough. I think you ride with Zach Wilson. You hope he can be super efficient. And here's what you do. You really run like we talked about the other day. You run that Browns Baker Mayfield situation.
You run that Gitsy offense.
You run that Browns Baker Mayfield Stefanski joint where you literally take the ball out of the quarterback's hand as much as possible. You have a two-headed monster at running back with Cook and Breece Hall, and that's what you do. And you hope that Wilson can make ridiculous plays once or twice a game that get you in the end zone. But that's what you do.
You just go 2,000 Ravens, Yeah, you just
Ravens,
go.
Browns, whoever. Throw the ball 19 times for 160 yards, short completions, and hit Garrett Wilson when you can. Other than that, we're going to run the ball and rely on our defense. You win games like last night. Now, you're not going to count on punt returns and some of the crazy things you saw in that
Four
game.
turnovers and a punt return.
4 turnovers and a punt return, but that's how you got no other choice. You can't let Zach Wilson go out there and let it spin 35 times, and you're not going to have somebody who's going to be ready in the next couple of weeks to start for you. So you're kind of in a bad. Where's Mike White? Is he available? They traded him, didn't they?
Yeah, Mike White is gone.
Mike
White.
That
Mike White situation was odd. He played really well, had one bad game, and then he was like gone.
Yeah, it was
disappeared.
Gone. And they traded him. They got rid of him. Yeah,
yeah.
There's something going on with Mike White.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
But yeah, they really.
But I'm gonna tell you this: Breece Hall, at what ACL? He was moving. He looked phenomenal last night. Breece Hall. Cook came in, gave him a little wiggle and a little bang too.
Playing against his brother.
I was trying to tell y'all, the two teams I've been touting all summer looked phenomenal. The Cowboys and the Jets looked phenomenal, and of course my boy AR8, Flight 8, goes out and
you got a lot of talent there, though, man. You really
do
have
a talent on that roster.
There's a lot of talent on that. That's what I'm saying. If you believe in Hackett and he can scheme an offense that's going to kind of work this way, they have the talent to do it. It's not like you were relying on Aaron Rodgers to come in there and fix everything on offense. It was really like, we just need a quarterback. It's not like it was like, hey, we have no skill position players and that. Now, the problem that I did see yesterday that's going to be an issue is that offensive line is really bad. Like really, really, really bad. And they need to figure that out because it doesn't matter who you have back there. If they're running for their life, it's not going to be easy. So if you could protect Zach Wilson, he made a couple throws. Interception was terrible, but after that, he bounced back. He made some throws. He even said after the game, he's just got to play efficient. But you look at him, man. It's just funny that dude's now. Yeah, he's an NFL quarterback. He just seems like a little kid.
Yeah, he's just not. Yeah, he's not. He's just not an NFL guy.
Not an NFL guy.
That's.
But he's your best option. He's all you got.
To talk about the rest of Week 1, coming out of Week 1, what were you impressed by? Ravens took care of business, had a big third quarter. They end up beating up on the Texans. Lamar Jackson didn't play that well. We know what happened with the Bears. Broncos end up losing at home 17-16. Eagles didn't look that good. Almost blew a 16-point lead. What was your I watched the Dolphins Chargers. That was by far my favorite game of the weekend. Tua went for 466. What was your biggest takeaway coming out of Week 1?
Yeah, I think everybody's coming out with Tua and the MVP candidate and how well he looked. So I'm going to switch it up just a little bit. Obviously, I was extremely impressed with that. And I told you yesterday, there might only be 3 good quarterbacks in the NFL, and one of them's Tua. And I'm starting to really believe that. So, yeah, really excited to see what they can do. And I think I'll say this. Tyreek Hill might be the best non-quarterback in the NFL. He might be the biggest difference maker in the NFL. I saw something the other day. I'm misquoting it, but some odds maker that they were talking to said that Tyreek Hill moves the line more than any non-quarterback in the NFL. To say he was worth like 1.5 to 2 points. And that was the information they said. He moves the line more than any non-quarterback in the NFL. And you watch games like Sunday, you get that. But I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. Listen, man. I heard Ryan Clark yesterday, I think, was like, he was talking about something and he was like, yeah, but it's Brock Purdy. And I'm like, hey, listen, we're past that. It's Brock Purdy.
Yeah, them days is over, bro.
Those days are over. This man is a legitimate quarterback in the NFL. It's not like Brock Purdy is going out there game managing. He's making big throws, right? He's making big time throws. He's making throws that you see the other guys make. He's completing them and he's winning ball games. Regardless of what you thought, and I know we overthought this because both of us were on the Skins for whatever reason. He went over there into Washington.
Yeah, the Steelers.
I'm sorry. Yeah, not Steelers. We were on the Steelers for whatever reason. Goes in there into Pittsburgh against a team that we all had expectations for and wins 30-7 and looks good doing it. So it's almost like, how many more performances do you need to see of this guy playing well before we kind of drop that, yeah, but it's Brock Purdy? You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're not asking Brock Purdy to do that much. Like, yeah, you are. You really are. Like, yeah, their skill position players are great. Their defense is awesome. Shanahan's a great coach. But Brock Purdy is out there executing high-level stuff. So I really do I feel like this guy's a legitimate quarterback in the NFL in that top half right now, without a doubt.
Yeah, I
you can win with him.
I made a note that we talk about, Nick, the most important positions in the league. We know it: quarterback, corner, left tackle. I think the second most important person in your the second most important person in your organization is the offensive mind. It's the quarterback, then the offensive mind for me, then the left tackle, then the edge rusher, then corner, whoever you could line them up after that. But I am convinced now, over the last couple of years of watching ball, like where we're at with offensive schemes, that the offensive mind is the second most important guy in the building. If you don't have a guy that's putting together a great offensive scheme week in, week out, and then filling in that personnel to do what you want to do as an offensive coordinator to be successful, your football team's not going to be successful in the NFL. They're not going to make a deep run. They're not going to make impact in the playoffs. And I think that's a big thing with San Francisco. It's to the point where there's even chirping, and I don't think this is true, that anybody can play quarterback for Kyle Shanahan. That's how good he is. I don't believe that,
that's not true.
But people are that's been verbalized.
Yeah.
But overall, man, you look at the teams that are making impacts. The offensive minds over there are crazy.
We just talked about the Dolphins.
We just talked about the Dolphins.
Yeah,
that's
Mike McDaniel, singular. That he's out there making a difference. He's absolutely locked in with Tua. If you talk about before he got there, it was clear that Brian Flores had no trust in him. He's out there trying to get Tom Brady, trying to get any quarterback he can to come to town. Then McDaniel comes in there and he takes Tua under his wing, and you can see they have a great relationship. So yeah, 100%. That play caller quarterback relationship is huge.
Well, there was a time before McDaniel showed up, singular. That
singular.
Tua, people didn't know if Tua could play in the NFL. It's very clear he could play.
Very well.
McDaniel. Ben Johnson, the Lions, Jared Goff. Ben Johnson is the reason that they're able to put that offense together and thrive the way they closed out the year last year. And they didn't look phenomenal to open the season, but I think that offense is still very good.
Massive last drive by Goff to win that game, though.
Yeah.
If you look at when it counted, Goff was good in the first drive of the game, was awful the rest of the game, but then the end, last drive, Goff was absolutely massive, made big time throws.
Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, the top of the crop.
Sure.
This is what happens when you get the best offensive minds with a top 5 quarterback. That's when you win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's when you compete in the Super Bowl. Period, point blank. That's it. Who's another example? We got Kyle Shanahan, Ben Johnson for Detroit. We got McDaniel in Miami.
Who are some of the best offenses? I don't know why I'm blanking on who some of the best offenses.
We have the Chargers. They look phenomenal as well.
Isn't Staley a defensive coach though?
Yeah, but they got my man from Dallas.
Oh yeah, they got Kellen Moore. Yeah,
Kellen Moore is in San Diego or is in LA with the Chargers. So what I'm getting at is you need to have an offensive mind in the building, and they're just as powerful as anybody for me because that's what you need to win in the NFL.
And I think some of that was telling about the Niners is all we talked about was this is a contender. This is a contender, right? It was really unfortunate what happened to them in the playoffs as far as losing all their quarterbacks. But when they didn't go out and make any move, I mean, they went and brought in Darnold, who's a backup, right? Darnold's a backup. He's the definition of a backup. To some people, I guess the definition of a backup quarterback. I've never seen him play well, but I guess he is, as far as his experience and maybe he grasps the playbook well. But they weren't out there trying to make a move for a starter. They weren't out there trying to make a move for anybody who would even push Brock Purdy, right? Like it's Brock's our starter. We're banking on him being healthy, and he's going to be our guy from week 1. That's a ton of confidence, right? And I think it says a lot, right? How they felt about him in the building, how much Shanahan trusted him, right? Because they could have easily been like, hey, Brock's our guy. We're going to give him a chance, but we want to bring in some competition just in case last year was fluky. There was no fluke to them at all. They're like, hey, this guy's legit. It was legit when they kept him on the roster. If you're talking about a guy who was drafted last, who was going to be your third quarterback in that situation last year in a league where a lot of teams only carry 2. So they kept him last year, right? He ended up playing well, and then they didn't try to give him any competition this year. So it says a lot about how they feel about him in the building. So if Shanahan is this quarterback whisperer, then you got to trust his evaluation on Brock Purdy. So I don't want to hear any more like, yeah, but it's Brock Purdy, or they're not asking Brock Purdy to do a lot. They're asking Brock Purdy to lead them to a Super Bowl this year. Period, point blank. They don't feel any other way. They're not saying, hey, manage the game while our defense carries us there. They're not saying, hey, hand the ball off to McCaffrey. He is out there making throws. And he was making throws last year. All those records were multi-touchdown game records. You don't throw multiple touchdowns in games if you're out there game managing. It's not Dilfer. It's not Brad. Who's my man that won it with the Bucks? Brad Johnson.
Brad Johnson.
That. Yeah. This ain't that. This is a guy who they're asking to go out there and make plays.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I agree 100%. But yeah, my biggest takeaway was Miami. That offense, that offensive game plan, that they are just dangerous. If you have an opportunity, go back and watch that Dolphins-Chargers game before next week. It's easily the best game of the week, and it didn't get enough pub because, like we talked about, it was at 1 o'clock or the 3 o'clock slot. It wasn't an America's game of the week slot like the Chicago Bears, and you get rolled out and people talk about it all day and night. So that was my takeaway, was go back and watch Miami if you can. They were sensational. Another offensive shout out is, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles. Very, very good offensive mind over there. I'm blanking on his name.
What was Steichen last year? Now
yeah, it was Steichen, who's in Arizona. But the head coach, what's the head coach's name?
Sirianni.
Yeah. So Philly's also another example of you got to have a great offensive scheme going for you, or else you're in trouble in the NFL. All right, let's talk about this. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you. I want to gauge your level of concern with something.
Yeah.
Where are we going? Are we going to Cincinnati or not?
We can.
I just want to know where based on that game, where are you with the Bengals? Did that concern you?
No,
not at all. You're fine.
It's going to take a lot for me to get concerned about Joe Burrow.
Okay.
To be completely honest.
Is he healthy?
I think you're right. I think he was dealing with the calf. I mentioned this prior. When he pulled the calf was wrapped already.
Yeah.
Meaning, I believe it was giving him issues already. So it was giving him issues. He then pulled it, then sat. And then the first game he comes back, it's storming in Cleveland.
I don't think he's been healthy in 3 years, if we're being completely honest. I don't think he's been healthy going back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. So, no, I'm not worried about Joe Burrow. I think he's probably one of the most mental tough guys in the NFL. I'll still never forget when he threw 3 straight interceptions against the Bears on 3 straight passes. And they showed him on the sideline, and you would have thought he just had a coffee and a chocolate croissant and was just waiting to get on the bus. Okay. So, no, it's going to take me a lot to be concerned about Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. Now, there was I didn't watch the Rams Seahawks, but no. It's a bit concerning that they got rolled out like that. Geno was 16 of 26 for 112 yards at home to open the year.
Hey, good on you for getting paid, Geno.
Yeah, now I could go back and I need to go back and look at that film and see how that all looked. But it could be one of those situations where, I don't want to call it one and done, but maybe he relaxed a little bit over the year. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the Rams are a lot better than everyone thought.
Divisional game, open up the season. Stafford's healthy.
13 points.
Yeah,
they get smoked with no cup. No Cooper Cup.
Yep.
It's nasty.
Tutu Atwell. Shout out Tutu Atwell. Shout out Puka Nacua.
Yeah,
he's out here doing it. I don't know who any of these guys are. I don't know who Puka Nacua is. I'm not going to lie to you. He had 10 receptions and 120 yards.
Shout out Cam Akers. Everyone was trashing him, saying he was toast. He had a good game. Had 22 attempts and a touchdown. So
he had 22 attempts for 29 yards.
Did he?
Yeah, and 12 of them came on one run. So really had 21 attempts for 17 yards. He didn't have a great game. He had a good touchdown though. It was Kyron Williams who had 2 touchdowns for them.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw the attempts. Damn.
1.3 a carry. Could they call the Rams? And that was another thing with the Jets. Like, could they call the Rams for Stafford? It's like, no, they're not. The Rams are 1-0. They're not trading Stafford.
Yeah.
And what are you gonna get up? You're gonna give up a lot for Stafford.
Puka Nacua.
Yeah, I don't know who that is, bro.
I don't even know who that is. I ain't gonna hold you.
Puka Nacua. Yeah, I don't know who that is. I don't even to know, folks. He can walk into my house right now and say, I'm
Tutu
Puka Akua. I'd be like,
Atwell.
who are you?
Tutu Atwell is 5'9", 165. I got to go back and look at some of these.
That's
This
McVay.
film.
McVay's out here
McVay.
McVay's out here scheming.
Shout out, just because I know he's listening. Shout out our boy Eli. I think he took an alt number on the Rams under win total, and I messaged him in the third quarter of that game. I said, "Hey, you're gonna be able to get some better odds here in about 45 minutes when this motherfucker goes final." So, damn, yeah, I want to go back and look at that now to see how that.
We get all the games from Sunday Ticket, right? Don't they all save under our thing?
They should. And if not, you just got to add them on the library, and you'll be good.
How was your Sunday Ticket experience?
It's great.
Yeah,
it was phenomenal. I was the first window slot. I watched the Browns. I watched the two national games,
Chargers,
and then I watched the Washington football team, the Commanders, because we had money on them. I watched
them. I was with a lot of interest. Yeah, for sure.
I had them on the third screen, and then Novak started at 4, so I was just running two football games and then the U.S. Open final. But I was running 3 different devices, all running YouTube TV. Some of them had multi-view on at some point, and it was smooth the entire way. And I was all on one account. I had no issues. I was running an iPad, a laptop, a TV, everything.
I was smooth until the end. I think we had just too much going. And I was also outside, so the signal was trying to get outside. So, yeah, I think because I had 2 TVs, then my iPad, and then Eli and Jamie came over, so they hopped on the Wi-Fi for the kids, and I think that was like overload for me at that point. But I was also outside trying to go through brick. Inside the crib would have been fine, and it was great all for the first game. So, yeah, shout out YouTube TV. It's glorious. Put it that way.
Hey, man, I'm going to tell you.
It's glorious.
If you don't mind the delay, it's a great, great, great product. If you're thinking about going to YouTube TV and you want to make that switch, I think it's worth it, man.
And a lot of folks tripping about the upfront. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe now they flipped it to monthly anyway. So go ahead and get your YouTube TV. I think they let you chop it up and just throw it on your bill now anyway.
Oh, instead of paying people
are like, I'm not paying $400, which like we broke it down. It's a great deal.
I think we saved money. So then
I think we signed up early. I think it was $289.
Yeah, it was $289. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. But I think now they've went and broken it down and all types of shit. So hop on there, man. It's a great deal. You get all the games. The multi-view was great.
Yeah. Also,
the only thing about the multi-view is you need to be able to customize it. Like there was I was trying to get the Commanders in a good multi-view, or the Niners. I was trying to get them in the right multi-view, and I couldn't get it.
I wonder why I'm not a product guy, obviously, it's a user experience, but I wonder why that's so difficult if you already have the 4-box. Why can't you just swap them out?
Yeah.
I bet you it's just a bandwidth thing where like if they can only handle so many combinations. So if everybody was putting in all these different combos, it might overload it. I don't know.
Overload the servers. Who knows?
Yeah,
look, if there's a will, there's a way. I'm sure they'll figure it out. I'm happy that we got the multi-view. It's dope. Yeah, shout out YouTube TV. YouTube TV, if you're still on the cord, YouTube TV needs to sponsor us, man. We got
shout out YouTube TV. Yeah. All right, before we get out of here, let's talk about this LeBron Olympic situation. You've been under a rock. USA lost to Germany in the semis, then lost to Canada in the third place game, and Dylan Brooks scored 39.
39.
He was like 7 of 8.
Dylan Brooks revenge tour.
He was like 7 of 8 from 3. That's all. Those are the biggest takeaways of it. They end up getting an L in overtime to Canada. Yeah. And then it comes out that LeBron James is calling up the boys, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, everybody that's anybody, Anthony Davis, all the big boy Americans said they're going to come on and play ball in Paris for the next Olympic run. Nick, how big of a deal is this? How big of a deal is it for you personally for international basketball for the USA to be prominent and be a problem?
So first of all, listen, man, I'm going to tell you something. This used to happen with the dunk contest every couple of years. LeBron's sitting at the crib. The burgundy is extra burgundy. You understand what I'm saying?
You said the red wine is extra. It's a deep color.
Very deep
Deep
Tuscan red. Very lush, deep Tuscan red. You know what I mean? Good vintage. Just having a few out of the big glass. And he's watching and he doesn't like what he sees. And mind you, he would do this with the dunk contest. He did this like 3 straight years. He put on Twitter, next year I'm coming out and I'm doing the dunk contest. We need to bring this back. That is this. LeBron, I will be stunned if 40-year-old LeBron James is in Paris playing in the Olympics. It's not happening. He may have made some calls. He may have, LeBron does this, man. He says things. He gets excited about things. He fires off prematurely. But we all know that there's zero chance that any of these guys are going to be in the Olympics in 2024. They will all be pushing on the wrong side of 35. LeBron will be 40. They're going to be coming off deep playoff runs. They're going to want to rest. And the last thing they're going to want to do is go to Paris for 2 months for the Olympics for something that they've already done. Also, if you're USA basketball, it's like, well, at what point are we going to flip this over to these young guys who need to take this mantle, right? You need your Anthony Edwards. You need those type of guys to kind of be your next generation.
Well, they're never going to deny the big boys.
Yeah, of course not. Of course not. But it's just kind of like why it's almost kind of ridiculous that he did that because it is throwing all those young guys under the bus. And if I'm like Edwards, I'm looking at him like fuck you, pretty much. But either way, it doesn't matter. It's a moot point. He's not doing it. It's the same thing as when he told you every single year he'd be in the dunk contest. And I have yet to see LeBron James in the NBA dunk contest. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. So that's how I feel about this. As far as the international basketball mattering to me, I didn't realize till I picked up the soccer how much some of these people really care about this international thing. Like, for instance, like the England soccer team, like these people go crazy over this. Like they're calling for this guy's head every week, whereas I could barely tell you who coaches Team USA. But it matters as far as like we shouldn't be getting beat in basketball competitions in the United States of America. We have the best players in the world. You can go back to that Noah Lyles thing, which he's a clown. I don't know. I'm not really sure what he's trying to do by doubling down on all this stuff.
He's fast though.
Yeah. He's the
fastest man on track.
He is, but he's not going to be able to get into an All-Star weekend party if he keeps talking. What's the point of being famous if you can't enjoy it? You got to
get you courtside. Huh?
Yeah, you're not going to get courtside.
Talking like that.
But either way, yeah, it matters, man. We should be the best at it. Like, I'm not sitting here telling that I'm bothered by it, but we should be the best at it. We shouldn't be losing to some of these teams. But it also tells you what we've known for a long time is that around the world, basketball has gotten much, 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 much better. And Canada is no slouch, right? Canada's got a lot of really good players in the NBA. I know Dylan Brooks was their leading scorer, but you start going through their roster and just how many Canadian players there have been recently in top 5 draft picks too. There's a lot of good players there. So you got to step it up. But LeBron's cap, it's just a LeBron thing that he says. We all know how LeBron does. Every few months he's got to say something, and this is just the latest installment of that. He's not playing in 2024. If LeBron is playing in 2024 in Paris, I'll go to the Olympics. That's how convinced I am, and I have zero interest in going to Paris in 2024. But yeah,
I'll close it at this: the whole international hoops, play or not, win or not, I really don't care too much until I were to look around and see a team that I really think could compete with our top guys. I know for a fact if we show up with our boys, no one's beating us. It's just a fact that if our boys want to show up,
you mean like those old Spanish, those old Argentinian teams with like Scola and Ginobili and guys that have really been playing together for like 20 years?
It doesn't bother me when a team led by a team with Austin Reeves and Walker Kessler, and I love Halliburton, but like those guys losing
what about
international competitions don't bother me too much. I love Jalen Brunson. He's not the best point guard we have in America. Halliburton's not the best point guard we have in the NBA. That's American. So that's where it doesn't really bother me too much. And also, this squad that's out there is newly constructed. We've talked about how, You need that time to gel. You have to get in camp. And that's why USA Basketball made players make longer commitments instead of just showing up and playing ball last minute. So it doesn't bother me that a team with a couple of guys that are middle tier NBA guys.
Josh Hart's not moving the needle for you?
You know what I'm saying? He didn't even start. He's been on 8 teams. He didn't even start last year for the Knicks. Made a big impact. But like these aren't the best players America has.
Now that I'm going through the roster,
I would be concerned, Nick, if we were sending our boys and we were getting clapped and we were losing to squads, right? So that's where it doesn't really bother me as much.
For me, it would be more, and also like I'm not necessarily. So I'm looking through the roster. I'll tell you how much I've cared about this. This is the first time I've ever really looked at the roster. I knew some of these guys were there, but I didn't really know who we sent. I honestly assumed that Tatum and Brown were there because I would think that those are the type of guys who need to be there. Like not LeBron and KD who are older. You really need your like 27, 28, 29-year. I think Tatum's like 25. But you need those guys who are in their prime, right?
Yes.
So I thought it was a bunch of those. Tatum, Brown, those type guys. When you look through this roster, let's be honest, the only guy on here who's like, you could see Anthony Edwards as a true superstar status, right? Like I think people have him pegged for that. Ingram is a really good player. I'm not going to call him a superstar. Jaren Jackson's an awesome defensive player, but that's about it. And you kind of saw that in some of the USA basketball thing. I think he had like 4 rebounds in the tournament or some shit like that. You and I are huge Walker Kessler guys when it comes to regular season NBA basketball. But yeah, to your point, he's not who I want to see running up and down the court in a USA game. Yeah, so until you get those guys who are those truly top tier guys who are in their prime, that 25 to 30 range, he's probably not going to make me care. And I don't think that you would beat those guys. So, yeah, I mean, this team is Paolo Banchero, rookie, Tyrese Halliburton, Cam Johnson. Shout out Cam Johnson. Yeah. Bobby Portis. Shout out Bobby Portis.
Come on, man. But, like, what are we talking about?
Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges. Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about?
Bunch of nice NBA players.
Bunch of nice NBA guys.
Yeah, and Anthony Edwards.
The second coming.
Listen. How long do we got? We might do an Anthony Edwards NBA preview episode where we talk an hour about Edwards.
The second coming.
Now he's the next guy. But yeah, I mean, no, I'm not too worried about it, man. It doesn't bother me.
I agree.
Who won?
Germany.
Schroeder?
I think they were 40. I think they're Schroeder. Killer.
Shout out Schroeder. Yeah, these guys, and like think about it, like Germany, Canada, like these guys have been the best players in their country for like the past 15 years. There's not enough guys to where they haven't all played together for the past 10 years, right? Like if you're Canada, Brooks has been playing with these boys.
That's always been the case.
Was Wiggins on the Canada team?
Come on, man. You know Wiggins not playing. You know Wiggins not playing.
Don't even put on.
Hey, you know Wiggins not playing extra basketball. Come on, man.
Am I getting paid for this?
No, Wiggins. I don't know that for a fact, but I didn't watch any of the FIBA.
Zero chance that Wiggins is on that.
I would bet that Wiggins.
Are you ready? All right. So it's Dylan Brooks, SGA, Zach Edey. That's dude from Purdue,
right?
From
Purdue, yeah.
RJ Barrett, your boy, Dwight Powell, Kelly Olynyk. Hey. You know why they won. I'm about to give you the next name. Lou Dort.
Oh. Torture Chamber. Lock up.
Chamber.
Torture Chamber.
I've never heard.
Never heard that?
No, is that you?
Torture Chamber. No, I heard that from someone else.
What a nickname.
Yeah.
Kyle Alexander, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Melvin Ejim, Philip Scrub, and Trey Bell Haynes. He lost to
Is Wiggins on the team? That Wiggins, man not playing no extra hoops.
Didn't even call Wiggins. we called Andrew. Nah.
Extra hoops. I'll pass, brother.
Nah, straight.
I'll be back. I'll see you guys in October.
I wasn't even here this year. I done my. Hey, listen. You said I won my ring 2 years ago. What more do you want from me?
Yes, and I was a big player. I was a big player in that series.
Yeah. That was very hard for me to care for 3 months. I'm good.
Yeah. And then took half the year off for personal. Depending
Unclear
on let me not get
let's not go.
That's petty. That's petty. Shout out Andrew. For Big Nick the Quick, I'm your host Sean Little. That's No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. Make sure you subscribe everywhere. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Lock in with us. Until next time, we'll see y'all later.